Dr. Hana Kim stood on the bridge of the medical ship Soul's Hope, watching the planet Vexitar grow larger on the main screen. The world looked sick from space. Brown clouds covered most of the surface, and the few clear spots showed cities burning in the distance. This was not a world at peace. "Doctor, we're getting signals from both sides of the war," said Captain Dongwoo Nam from his chair. "They're both asking for help." Hana nodded. She had read the reports during their 3-week journey here. The Vextari people were fighting a civil war that had lasted 5 years. 2 clans, the Northern Hive and the Southern Colony, were destroying each other over old grudges about territory and resources. But that was not why Earth had sent them here. 3 months ago, a deadly plague had started spreading across Vextar. It killed both sides without caring about politics. The disease attacked the Vextari nervous system, causing terrible pain before death. Children died first, then the elderly, then healthy adults. Within weeks, entire cities were empty. Both warring clans had sent desperate messages to Earth. They begged for medical help. The Earth Medical Corps never said no to such requests. "Take us to the largest city," Hana told the captain. "We'll set up our main hospital there." Behind her, Dr. Jun Park checked his medical supplies for the 10th time. He was their best trauma surgeon, a quiet man who could work for 20 hours straight without stopping. Next to him, Dr. Nari Lee reviewed her research on the plague. She was their disease expert, and if anyone could find a cure, it would be her. Chief Nurse So Young Choi walked between the medical staff, checking that everyone was ready. She had been working with the Medical Corps for 15 years, and had seen every kind of disaster. But her eyes showed worry as she looked at the planet below. "Dr. Kim," she said quietly, "the reports say this plague is unlike anything we've seen before. Are you sure our medicine will work on the Vextari?" Hana smiled. "That's why we brought our best people, So Young. If we can't help them, nobody can." The Soul's Hope carried 200 medical workers. They had doctors, nurses, medical technicians, and researchers. Their ship was really a flying hospital with operating rooms, research labs, and beds for 1,000 patients. Following close behind was the warship, Busan Guardian, commanded by Captain Dongwoo's friend from the military academy. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, Hana could see the damage up close. Cities that should have millions of people looked empty. Roads were broken. Farms had no workers. This world was dying. They landed in Kethmore, once the largest city on Vextar. Now it looked like a ghost town. The few Vextari who came to meet them were thin and sick. They looked like giant insects walking on 2 legs, with 4 arms and large compound eyes. Their normally bright green skin was dull and gray. The Vextari leader, Elder Klexath, could barely stand as he spoke to them. "Humans from Earth," he said in broken English. "You come when our gods have forgotten us. We are grateful." Hana knelt down to his level. The Vextari were shorter than humans, about the height of children. "We're here to help everyone," she said. "We don't take sides in your war. We only fight disease and death." Within hours, the medical team had set up their equipment in the city's largest building. So Young organized the nurses to clean and prepare treatment areas. Dr. Jun set up 3 operating rooms for emergency surgery. Dr. Nari started her lab work, taking samples from sick Vextari to understand the plague better. The patients came slowly at first. Many Vextari were afraid of the strange humans, but word spread quickly when the first patients started getting better. Human medicine worked on Vextari bodies. The pain medicine stopped their suffering. The treatment slowed down the disease. By the end of the first week, hundreds of Vextari were coming for help every day. They came from both sides of the war. Northern Hive soldiers and Southern Colony civilians sat next to each other in the waiting areas. The plague didn't care about their politics, and neither did the humans. Dr. Jun worked 18 hours a day, operating on wounded soldiers and 6 civilians. He saved the life of a Northern Hive commander one morning, then spent the afternoon treating Southern Colony children. His hands never shook no matter how tired he was. Dr. Nari made her breakthrough in the 2nd week. She found that the plague was actually 2 diseases working together. One attacked the nervous system, while the other stopped the immune system from fighting back. It was like nothing anyone had seen before. "This isn't natural," she told Hana late one night in the lab. "Someone made this disease. It's too perfect at killing Vextari." Hana frowned. "Are you saying this plague is a weapon?" "I think so. But right now, I don't care who made it. I care about stopping it." Dr. Nari worked for 3 more days without sleep. She combined human antiviral drugs with Vextari plant medicines. On the fourth day, she found the answer. The cure wasn't just one drug, but a combination of 5 different treatments that had to be given in exactly the right order. The first Vextari child to receive the complete cure was a little girl named Zixara. She had been dying for weeks, too weak to open her eyes, but 6 hours after the treatment, she sat up and asked for food. Her parents cried tears of joy, and So Young had to wipe her own eyes as she watched. Word of the cure spread across the planet in days. Vextari from both sides of the war traveled hundreds of miles to reach the human hospital. The Soul's Hope had to call for more medical supplies from Earth. Captain Dongwu's military friends brought 3 more ships full of medicine and equipment. By the 3rd week, the humans had saved over 10,000 lives. The plague was retreating. Vextari children played in the streets again. Adults went back to work. The war itself had almost stopped, as both sides were too busy recovering to keep fighting. Elder Klexath came to see Hana on their last night. He brought leaders from both the Northern Hive and Southern Colony. They all knelt before her. "Dr. Kim," he said, "you have done what our gods could not do. You saved our people when we could not save ourselves. How can we repay this gift?" Hana helped him stand up. "You don't need to repay anything. Just take care of each other. Stop fighting and help your world heal." The Vextari leaders looked at each other. For the first time in 5 years, enemies shook hands. "We will remember," said the Northern Hive commander. "We will tell our children that when darkness came, the humans brought light." That night, Hana stood on the bridge of Soul's Hope, watching the stars. Tomorrow they would leave for Earth. The Vextari could handle the remaining cases of the plague themselves. The cure was simple enough for their own doctors to make. "Feels good, doesn't it?" said Captain Dongwu. "Saving a whole world." Hana smiled. "This is why we became doctors. To help people who can't help themselves." She didn't know that in a few hours everything would change. She didn't know that other eyes were watching them, angry that the humans had stopped a profitable war. She didn't know that some beings in the galaxy saw healing as interference and peace as a threat to their business. All she knew was that tomorrow they would go home knowing they had done good work. The medical corps had saved another world. It was what humans did best. The Soul's Hope prepared for its journey home, not knowing that death was already coming for them. Admiral Sethkar of the Korth Empire stared at the reports with cold reptilian eyes. The humans had ruined everything. For 2 years, his people had been selling weapons to both sides of the Vextari war. It was perfect business. The insects killed each other with Korth guns, bought more weapons with their remaining money, and the Empire grew richer. Now the war was ending. The Vextari were talking about peace, all because some human doctors had cured their plague. "Sir," said his aide, a younger Korth with nervous green scales, "the High Command wants the war to continue. They're asking what you plan to do about the humans." Sethkar's forked tongue flicked out as he thought. The Korth were not like humans. They didn't care about sick aliens or dead children. They cared about profit and power. The human doctors were destroying both. "Send a message to the human ships," he ordered. "Tell them the Korth Empire wishes to offer medical assistance. We want to inspect their operations for security purposes." The aide looked confused. "Sir, we don't have any medical ships. We have 6 heavy cruisers. That's all the medicine these humans need." 3 hours later, the Korth fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Vextar. Their ships were dark and ugly, built for war instead of healing. Each cruiser carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Captain Dongwu saw them coming on his sensors. The Busan Guardian was a strong ship, but not strong enough to fight 6 cruisers. He called Dr. Hana immediately. "Doctor, we have visitors. 6 Korth warships just arrived. They're requesting permission to approach." Hana was in the middle of treating a young Vextari boy with a broken arm. She finished wrapping the bandage before answering. "What do they want?" "They say they want to help with medical operations." "Something about security inspections?" Hana frowned. The Korth Empire was known across the galaxy, but not for helping anyone. They were traders and soldiers, interested only in making money. But Earth's policy was clear. They cooperated with all civilized species. "Let them come," she said, "but keep your weapons ready." "Already done, Doctor." An hour later, Admiral Sethkar's shuttle docked with Soul's Hope. He brought 20 Korth soldiers with him, all armed with plasma rifles. Hana met them at the airlock with So Young and 2 security guards. Sethkar was typical for his species. 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales with yellow eyes that never blinked. His soldiers were smaller but looked just as dangerous. They wore black armor and carried their weapons like they expected a fight. "Admiral," Hana said politely, "welcome aboard Soul's Hope. I'm Dr. Kim, the mission leader." Sethkar looked around the medical bay with disgust. Sick Vextari filled every bed. Human doctors moved between them, checking treatments and changing bandages. To him, it looked like weakness. "Dr. Kim," he said in a voice like grinding metal, "the Korth Empire has heard about your work here. We wish to inspect your facilities to ensure they meet galactic security standards." Hana knew this was strange, but she had nothing to hide. "Of course, Admiral. We're proud of what we've accomplished here." She led them through the ship, explaining their work. In the children's ward, young Vextari played with toys while they recovered from the plague. Dr. June was operating on a wounded soldier from the Northern Hive. Dr. Nari showed them her laboratory, where she had developed the cure that saved thousands of lives. The Korth soldiers said nothing, but their eyes were cold. They looked at the sick patients like animals. They watched the human doctors with something that might have been hatred. "This is impressive work," Sethkar lied. "The Empire is always interested in medical advances. Perhaps we could discuss a partnership?" Hana smiled. "We'd be happy to share our research. The cure for the plague could help other species too." "Indeed. Could we have a private meeting with your senior staff to discuss the details?" Hana called Dr. June and Dr. Nari to the main conference room. So Young came too, along with the chief medical technician. Captain Dongwu joined them from the Busan Guardian via video link. "Now then," Sethkar said as the door closed, "let's discuss the future of medical operations in this sector." The Korth soldiers moved to positions around the room. Their commander nodded slightly. "Actually," Sethkar continued, "let's discuss the end of medical operations in this sector." The soldiers raised their weapons. Dr. June was the first to understand. "Hana, get down." The plasma bolts lit up the room. Dr. June threw himself in front of Hana and died instantly. Dr. Nari fell with her hands reaching for her research data. The medical technician died trying to reach the emergency alarm. So Young was by the door when the shooting started. She could have run, but she didn't. Instead, she activated the ship's communication system and screamed into the microphone. "All hands, we're under attack. The Korth are killing everyone. Send a message to Earth. Tell them what happened here." A plasma bolt caught her in the chest. She fell but kept talking. "Tell them we died doing our duty. Tell them the Korth killed doctors and patients. Tell them." Another bolt ended her voice forever. Hana was still alive, protected by Dr. June's body. She could hear the alarms going off throughout the ship. She could hear plasma fire and screaming from the medical wards. Admiral Sethkar stood over her. "Nothing personal, Doctor. But your healing was bad for business, the patients," Hana whispered. "They're just sick people, children. And now they'll be dead children. The war will start again. Weapons will be needed and the Empire will profit. It's simple economics." On the Busan Guardian, Captain Dongwu watched his friend die on the video screen. He tried to help, but the Korth cruisers were already firing on his ship. His weapons couldn't pierce their shields. His engines couldn't outrun their speed. "All hands prepare for ramming speed," he ordered. "If we're going to die, we're taking them with us." But the Busan Guardian never got the chance. Korth plasma cannons tore through her hull like paper. The ship exploded in a flash of light that briefly outshone the system's star. Aboard Soul's Hope, the massacre continued. Korth soldiers moved through every deck, killing anyone they found. Doctors died while treating patients. Nurses were shot while holding children. Patients too sick to move were executed in their beds. Dr. Min Ho-song, Hana's husband, was in the research lab when the attack began. He managed to send one final message to Earth before the soldiers found him. "This is Soul's Hope to Earth Medical Command. We are under attack by Korth forces. They are systematically murdering medical personnel and patients. This is not combat. This is execution. If anyone receives this message, remember that we died trying to help people. Remember what they did to us." The plasma bolt that killed him also destroyed the transmitter. Admiral Sethkar walked through the silent ship, checking that everyone was dead. In the children's ward, he found small bodies that would never grow up. In the operating rooms, he found doctors who had died while trying to save lives. "Sir," his aide reported, "all humans are dead. Should we destroy the ship?" Sethkar thought about it. "No, leave it as it is. When the Vextari find it, they'll know what happens to those who accept human help. Fear is a useful tool. The Korth fleet left as quickly as it had come. Behind them floated Sol's Hope, dark and silent. Inside were 347 dead humans and over 1,200 murdered patients. The ship drifted in space like a tomb. On Vextar, Elder Klexath received the news with horror. The humans who had saved his people were all dead. The doctors who had cured the plague, the nurses who had comforted dying children, the researchers who had worked without sleep to help strangers, all murdered. Why? He asked the empty sky. Why would anyone kill healers? 3 days later, a Vextari rescue ship reached Sol's Hope. What they found inside made even hardened soldiers weep. They sent a message to Earth describing the scene, but words could not capture the horror. The humans had come to Vextar in peace. They had brought medicine and hope. They had asked for nothing in return except the chance to help, and for this kindness they had been slaughtered like animals. The news reached Earth 2 weeks later. When it did, something awakened in humanity that had been sleeping for centuries, something ancient and terrible and absolutely without mercy. The healers were dead. Now it was time for the angels of death to fly. General Yi Tae-sung had seen war before. He had fought pirates in the outer systems and put down rebellions on colony worlds. But nothing had prepared him for the footage from Sol's Hope. He sat in his office in the Terran Defense Force headquarters, watching the security recordings that the Vextari had recovered. The images were clear and horrible. Korth soldiers shooting doctors in the back. Plasma bolts cutting down nurses who were trying to protect children. Patients executed in their hospital beds. "Turn it off," he said quietly. His aide, Colonel Park Sang-woo, stopped the recording. "Sir, the President wants to see you immediately." "The Emergency Council is meeting in 1 hour." Yi nodded and stood up. He was a big man, gray-haired and scarred from decades of military service. His grandfather had fought in the old wars on Earth, before humanity reached the stars. His family understood that sometimes peace could only be protected by those willing to fight. "Colonel, send a message to all fleet commanders. Tell them to prepare for immediate deployment. Full war protocols." "Sir, we don't have official authorization yet." Yi looked at him with cold eyes. "We will." The Emergency Council met in the secure chamber beneath the Presidential Palace in Geneva. President Moon Ji-woo sat at the head of the table, her face pale but determined. Around her were the leaders of Earth's government, military, and major colonies. "The footage speaks for itself," she said. "The Korth Empire has committed an act of pure evil. They murdered doctors, nurses, and patients in cold blood. This cannot stand." Defense Minister Kim Do-hyun spoke first. "Madam President, Earth has not fought an offensive war in over 200 years. We've always been peacekeepers and explorers. Are we really going to change everything because of one attack?" The room erupted in angry voices. Some agreed with the defense minister. Others demanded immediate action. President Moon let them argue for several minutes before speaking. Silence. Her voice was not loud, but everyone stopped talking. "I want each of you to think about something. What happens when the galaxy learns that you can murder human doctors and face no consequences? What happens when other species decide that our medical ships are easy targets?" She stood up and activated the wall screen. The image showed Sol's Hope drifting in space, its hull scarred by weapon fire. Inside that ship are 347 people who went to help strangers. They asked for nothing except the chance to heal the sick. They died because someone decided that peace was bad for business. The president looked around the table. "If we do nothing, every medical mission we send will be a target. Every doctor, every nurse, every researcher who tries to help others will know they might be next. The Korth have not just attacked our people, they have attacked everything we stand for." Admiral Kang Soo-jin of the First Fleet cleared her throat. "Madam President, if we're going to war, we need to understand what we're facing. The Korth Empire has over 300 warships. Their technology is advanced. This won't be easy." President Moon smiled grimly. "Admiral, the Korth have never fought humanity when humanity was truly angry. They've seen our exploration ships and medical vessels. They've seen our peacekeepers and diplomats. They have no idea what we're really capable of." She turned to General Yi. "How long to mobilize the full fleet?" 2 weeks, Madam President. "But I should warn you, once we start this, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again." "Good," Moon said. "It's time they learned the truth about humanity." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in its history, Earth was going to war. Dr. Min Ho-song stood in his empty house holding a picture of his wife Hana. They had been married for 8 years. She had died doing what she loved, helping people who couldn't help themselves. Now he had a choice to make. The military recruiter had been honest with him. "Doctor, we're not asking you to fight. We need medical personnel for the fleet, but you should know this won't be like the medical corps. You'll be treating our wounded, not saving civilians." Minho looked at the picture again. Hana was smiling, wearing her medical corps uniform. She had been so proud to be a healer. "I'll go," he said. "Someone needs to patch up our soldiers so they can keep fighting. Someone needs to heal the wounds we're about to create." Across Earth and its colonies, the greatest military mobilization in human history began. Ships that had been mothballed for decades were brought back into service. Weapons that existed only in military databases were built in secret factories. Technologies that humanity had hoped never to use were activated for the first time. The galaxy knew about human exploration ships and medical vessels. They had seen human diplomats and peacekeepers. What they had never seen were the ships that humanity built for war. Commander Yanwu Lim had been flying fighters for 10 years, but never in combat. His squadron, the Ghost Unit, flew ships that officially didn't exist. Their fighters used experimental stealth technology and quantum weapons that could punch through any known shield. "Boys," he told his pilots, "we've spent years training for a war nobody wanted. Well, now we have one. The Corps think they know what human technology can do. They're about to learn they were wrong." Major Ji-hun Yu of the Orbital Drop Marines was loading his gear when a sergeant asked him a question. "Sir," the briefing said, "we're not taking prisoners." "Is that really necessary?" Ji-hun thought about the footage from Seoul's Hope. Children shot in their hospital beds. Doctors killed while operating on wounded enemies. Nurses murdered while protecting patients. "Sergeant, the Corps crossed a line that should never be crossed. They killed healers. They murdered children. They shot doctors in the back." He shouldered his rifle. "Some lines once crossed cannot be uncrossed." Admiral Kang stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Incheon, watching as the fleet assembled. 50 dreadnoughts, 200 cruisers, 500 destroyers, and 10,000 fighters. It was more firepower than had ever been gathered in one place. But this wasn't just about firepower. For 2 centuries, humanity had been building ships and weapons in secret, hoping they would never be needed. The galaxy thought humans were peaceful because they chose to be peaceful, not because they had to be. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 3 Korth border systems. They've heard about our mobilization." Kang smiled coldly. "Tell them surrender is not an option. They should have thought about consequences before they murdered our doctors." President Moon gave her final address to Earth before the fleet departed. She spoke standing in front of the memorial wall, where the names of the Seoul's Hope victims were carved in black stone. "My fellow humans," she said, "for over 2 centuries we have been the galaxy's healers, explorers and peacemakers. We have asked for nothing except the right to help others. We have offered our medicine to the sick, our knowledge to the ignorant, and our protection to the weak." She paused, looking directly into the camera. 3 weeks ago, the Korth Empire decided that our kindness was weakness. They murdered 347 of our people who went to heal the sick. They executed over 1,000 patients under our protection. They killed doctors, nurses, and children. Her voice grew harder. "Today we remind the galaxy of something they seem to have forgotten. Humanity did not become peaceful because we were weak. We became peaceful because we were strong enough to choose peace over conquest. We carried swords but decided to become gardeners instead." She turned to face the memorial wall. "But when someone attacks our gardeners, when someone murders our healers, when someone kills our children's doctors," she looked back at the camera, "they will learn why we needed no one's protection from them." The fleet departed from Earth orbit in perfect formation. As they jumped to hyperspace, a message went out on all frequencies to every species in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Kang Soo-jin of the Terran Defense Force, speaking to all civilized beings. The Korth Empire has committed an act of unforgivable evil. They have murdered medical personnel and patients under Earth's protection. We are coming to deliver justice." The message paused, then continued. "To any species watching, Earth's mercy is infinite, but our justice is absolute. We will heal your sick, teach your children, and explore the stars with you. But if you raise a hand against our healers, if you murder our doctors, if you slaughter the innocent under our protection, you will learn why humanity climbed to the top of Earth's food chain." The galaxy held its breath. The peaceful humans were going to war, and they were about to discover what humanity had been hiding behind their kindness all along. Admiral Sethkar was eating his morning meal when his aide brought him the reports. 3 Korth patrol fleets had simply vanished overnight. No distress calls, no debris, no survivors. 24 heavy cruisers and their escort ships had just disappeared. "Sir?" the aide said nervously. "Our border sensors show nothing. Whatever destroyed our ships left no trace." Sethkar's forked tongue flicked out in annoyance. "Pirates? Rebels?" "Unknown, sir. But there's something else. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive fleet moving toward our space. The computer estimates over 700 ships." The admiral dropped his food. 700 ships? Who has that kind of fleet? "The identification signals say they're human, sir." Sethkar laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. "Humans, those peaceful healers. Your sensors must be broken. Humans don't even have a real military." But as the hours passed, the reports kept coming. Human ships were indeed approaching. And they were not the exploration vessels or medical ships the galaxy knew. These were warships built for one purpose only. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's addressed to you personally." Admiral Kang Soo-jin appeared on the main screen. She wore a black uniform that Sethkar had never seen before. Behind her, the bridge of her ship was dark and efficient, built for war. "Admiral Sethkar," she said in perfect Korth language, "I am Admiral Kang of the Terran Defense Force. You murdered our doctors. You executed our nurses. You killed patients under our protection. You made the biggest mistake in your species' history." Sethkar tried to look confident, but something in the human's eyes made him nervous. "Admiral Kang, surely we can discuss this like civilized beings. The Empire is always open to negotiation." Kang's smile was colder than space. "You should have thought about civilization before you shot doctors in the back. You should have considered negotiation before you murdered children in their hospital beds. There is nothing to discuss." The transmission ended. Sethkar immediately called for reinforcements and prepared his defenses. The Korth Empire had the strongest military in this sector of the galaxy. Surely these humans, whatever ships they had, could not match Korth firepower. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Commander Yeon Woo Lim's Ghost Squadron struck first. Their stealth fighters appeared out of nowhere, invisible to Korth sensors until they were already inside the enemy formation. The first thing Sethkar knew about the attack was when his patrol ship started exploding. "Report!" he shouted. "What's happening out there?" "Unknown contacts, sir. Our ships are under attack, but sensors show nothing. It's like they're being destroyed by ghosts." Yeonwoo's fighters used quantum torpedoes that unmade matter at the molecular level. Korth ships didn't just explode, they simply ceased to exist. One moment a cruiser was there, the next moment there was only empty space. "Ghost leader to all units," Yeonwoo said calmly over the radio. "Remember, these are the ones who killed our doctors. No survivors." The stealth fighters moved through the Korth fleet like deadly shadows. Their weapons ignored shields and armor. Their speed made them impossible to target. In 30 minutes, they destroyed 40 ships without losing a single fighter. But that was just the beginning. Admiral Kang's main fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The Korth had never seen ships like these. Human dreadnoughts were twice the size of Korth cruisers. Human destroyers moved faster than Korth fighters, and the weapons they carried made no sense. "Sir," the Korth sensor operator reported in panic, "the human ships are using gravity weapons. They're creating artificial black holes." Sethkar watched in horror as a human dreadnought fired a single shot at one of his heavy cruisers. The shot created a tiny black hole that sucked the enemy ship into itself, crushing it into a ball of compressed metal the size of a marble. "All ships return fire," he ordered. The Korth fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and nuclear missiles streaked toward the human ships. It should have been enough firepower to destroy a planet. The human shields absorbed everything without even flickering. "Impossible," Sethkar whispered. "No shields are that strong." Admiral Kang's voice came over the communications channel again. "Admiral, you're fighting with technology that's 50 years behind ours. We've been building these ships in secret, hoping we'd never have to use them. You made us use them." The human fleet advanced like an unstoppable wall of death. Their gravity cannons turned Korth ships into compressed metal. Their particle beams cut through hulls like they were made of paper. Their fighters swarmed over enemy vessels like angry wasps. But the most terrifying sight was yet to come. Major Ji-hoon Yu stood in the drop bay of his assault ship. checking his armor one final time. Around him, 1,000 orbital drop marines prepared for humanity's first ground assault in 3 centuries. Listen up, he told his troops. The Korth have ground bases on 15 worlds. They think their planetary shields will protect them. They're about to learn that nothing protects you from humanity when humanity is truly angry. The dropships launched from the human fleet like falling stars. The Korth planetary shields tried to stop them, but human technology had advanced beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The ships passed through the shields as if they weren't there. Ji-hoon's armor was a masterpiece of human engineering. It made him 8 feet tall and strong enough to flip a tank. His weapons could punch through starship armor. His helmet sensors could see through walls and track targets from miles away. The Marines hit the ground like meteors, their armor absorbing impacts that would have killed ordinary soldiers. Within minutes, they were advancing on the Korth command bunkers. "Sir," one of his sergeants reported, "the enemy is requesting surrender." Ji-hoon thought about the children who had died on Seoul's Hope. Denied. They made their choice when they shot doctors in the back. The ground war was over in 6 hours. The Korth military had never faced enemies like the drop marines. Human soldiers moved faster, hit harder, and fought with a fury that terrified the reptilian warriors. But this wasn't mindless slaughter. Dr. Min-ho Song followed behind the assault teams with his medical corps, treating wounded Korth soldiers with the same care his wife had shown to everyone. "Doctor," a young Marine asked, "why are we helping them?" "They killed your wife." Min-ho looked up from the Korth soldier he was bandaging. "Because this is what separates us from them. We heal even our enemies. We're better than they are." The galaxy watched in amazement and terror as humanity waged war with one hand and healed with the other. They destroyed Korth fleets without mercy, then sent medical ships to treat the survivors. They conquered Korth worlds in hours, then immediately began rebuilding the infrastructure they had damaged. After 2 weeks, the Korth Empire had lost 60% of its fleet. Admiral Sethkar sat in his command bunker, sending desperate messages to anyone who would listen. "This is Admiral Sethkar to all civilized species. The humans have gone insane. They're using weapons we've never seen. They're destroying everything. Someone must stop them." The answer came from the Vextari government. "Admiral," said Elder Kleksath, "the humans came to our world in peace. They healed our sick and cured our plague. They asked for nothing in return. You murdered them for this kindness. Now you ask us to save you from the consequences?" The Vextari message was broadcast across the galaxy. Let every species hear this truth. The humans are not the aggressors. They are the victims seeking justice. They did not start this war. They are finishing it. One by one, the Korth Empire's allies abandoned them. Trade partners cut all contact. Neutral species closed their borders to Korth ships. The galaxy had made its choice. On the flagship Incheon, Admiral Kang received the final surrender offer from the Korth High Command. They were offering complete capitulation, war reparations, and the execution of all officers involved in the Seoul's Hope massacre. "Not enough," she said, and deleted the message. Commander Yeonwoo's fighters struck the Korth homeworld's orbital defenses. Major Ji-hoon's Marines landed in the capital city. Dr. Min-ho's medical teams prepared to treat casualties. The war was almost over. But humanity was not finished teaching the galaxy about justice. "All Korth forces," Admiral Kang broadcast on every frequency, "you have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. After that, we will demonstrate why peaceful species should never be attacked." The hour passed without a response. The humans showed them. The Korth homeworld burned for 3 days, not from human weapons, but from the civil war that erupted when the population learned what their military had done. Admiral Sethkar was dragged from his bunker by his own people and executed in the streets. The High Command was torn apart by angry mobs who understood that their leaders had doomed their entire species. Admiral Kang watched from her flagship as Korth civilians hung white flags from every building. They were surrendering not just to humanity, but to the reality of what their empire had become. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender signals from every remaining Korth fleet. They're requesting terms." Kang stood silent for a long moment. Around the bridge, her crew waited for orders. They had won the fastest and most complete military victory in galactic history. The question now was what to do with that victory. "Open a channel to all remaining Korth forces," she ordered. Her image appeared on screens across the Korth Empire. Behind her, the wreckage of their once mighty fleet drifted in space like broken toys. "This is Admiral Kang Soo-jin of the Terran Defense Force. Your empire attacked our healers. You murdered doctors who came to help the sick. You executed patients in their hospital beds. You killed children who could not defend themselves." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "The old Korth Empire is dead. What happens next depends on whether you've learned from your mistakes." President Moon Ji-woo arrived on the former Korth homeworld 2 weeks later aboard a hospital ship. The symbolism was deliberate. Where the Korth had sent warships to murder healers, humanity sent healers to help their former enemies. The planet's new government met her at the spaceport. They were not the military leaders who had ordered the massacre, but civilians, scientists, and doctors who had opposed the war from the beginning. "President Moon," said Dr. Keseth, "the planet's new leader, we cannot undo what our military did. We can only promise that it will never happen again." Moon looked around at the crowd that had gathered to see her. Korth civilians, many of them injured in the fighting, watched nervously as human doctors set up medical stations. They expected revenge.
"Instead, they got treatment. Dr. Keseth," Moon said, "we didn't come here to destroy your people."
"We came to teach your people a lesson. The lesson is this: attacking healers has consequences that last forever." Over the following months, humanity rebuilt what they had destroyed. Human engineers repaired Korth infrastructure. Human doctors treated Korth wounded. Human teachers helped Korth children learn about the galaxy beyond their empire. But they also made changes that would last forever. Dr. Min-ho Song stood in what had been Admiral Seth Kar's command center, now converted into the largest medical facility on the planet. Korth doctors worked alongside human doctors, learning new techniques and treatments. "Dr. Song?" asked a young Korth physician named Velesh. "Why do you help us?" "We killed your wife." Min-ho looked up from the patient they were treating together. "Because this is what she would have wanted." She believed that healing was more powerful than revenge. But Min-ho's kindness came with a price. Above the medical center, a human military base kept watch. The message was clear. Humanity would heal, but they would also protect. Commander Yanwoo Lim's Ghost Squadron now patrolled the former Korth space. His ships were invisible, but everyone knew they were there. Any species that wanted to trade in the sector had to accept human inspection of their ships and cargo. "This is Ghost Leader to unknown vessel," Yanwoo transmitted to a suspicious freighter. "You will submit to inspection or be destroyed. We are looking for weapons shipments to potential aggressors." The freighter immediately stopped and opened its cargo bays. The galaxy had learned that arguing with human forces was a very bad idea. Major Ji-hoon Yu established training camps on 12 former Korth worlds. His mission was to teach other species how to defend themselves properly. But his real job was to make sure everyone understood human military capabilities. "The key to human tactics," he told a class of alien military officers, "is that we never fight fair. We use overwhelming force, superior technology, and absolute determination. We study our enemies for years before we fight them. By the time the shooting starts, we've already won." A nervous Vextari officer raised his hand. "Major, how do we avoid making humanity angry?" Ji-hoon smiled grimly. "Simple. Don't attack medical ships. Don't murder doctors. Don't kill children. Don't shoot anyone who's trying to heal people. Follow those rules, and you'll never have to worry about fighting humans." 6 months after the war ended, President Moon called a gathering of all known species. The meeting was held on Vextar, in a new conference center built where Sol's Hope had been destroyed. The symbolism was impossible to miss. Representatives from 47 species came to hear what humanity had to say. They arrived in ships escorted by human warships, passed through checkpoints manned by human soldiers, and sat in chairs guarded by human marines. "Fellow beings," President Moon began, "6 months ago the galaxy learned something important about humanity. We are not weak because we choose peace. We choose peace because we are strong enough to afford it." She activated a holographic display showing the ruins of the Korth fleet. The Korth Empire learned this lesson the hard way. They attacked our healers and discovered that peaceful species can become very dangerous when they're angry enough. A representative from the Zelkan Consortium raised a tentacle. "President Moon, what does humanity want from us? What are your demands?" Moon smiled. "We don't want your territory. We don't want your resources. We don't want to rule you. We want something much simpler. She looked around the room. We want to be left alone to do our work. We want to heal your sick, explore new worlds and help civilizations grow. We want to build hospitals and schools and research centers. We want to make the galaxy a better place for everyone. The room was silent. But, Moon continued, if anyone attacks our healers again, if anyone murders our doctors, if anyone kills patients under our protection, they will learn what the Korth learned. There are some lines that cannot be crossed without consequences. The Kepler Accords were signed that day. 47 species agreed to a simple treaty: attack Earth's medical missions and face Earth's military. In return, humanity promised to defend any species that requested protection and to share their medical knowledge freely. The galaxy had a new order. At the top were not conquerors or tyrants, but healers protected by the most powerful military force ever assembled. 5 years later, Dr. Minho Song stood on the observation deck of the memorial station built where Sol's Hope had died. The station was now the largest medical facility in the galaxy, treating patients from hundreds of species. A young Vextari named Kixara approached him. She was one of the children who had been saved by the original medical mission, now grown up and working as a nurse. "Dr. Song," she said, "I have a question that many of us wonder about. Why do humans fight so hard to protect healers? Why is this so important to your people?" Minho looked out at the stars where human patrol ships maintained their eternal watch. "Because someone has to be strong enough to protect those who heal," he said. "Because someone has to make sure that kindness isn't seen as weakness. Because someone has to ensure that helping others doesn't make you a target." He turned to face her. "Kixara, your people were dying of plague when we first came here. We could have ignored your distress calls. We could have said it wasn't our problem. But we didn't. We came to help because that's what humans do. And people like Admiral Sethkar tried to punish us for that kindness. They thought mercy was weakness. They thought healers were easy targets." Minho pointed to the human dreadnought Hana's Vengeance drifting silently nearby. "That ship is named after my wife. It exists to make sure no one ever makes that mistake again." The galaxy learned an important lesson from what happened here. The strongest among us are often the gentlest, but only until something threatens what they protect. Above them, Earth's newest hospital ship prepared to launch, escorted by a squadron of destroyers. The galaxy's wounded would be healed, its sick would be cured, and its children would receive the best medical care available, and anyone who tried to stop them would face the angels of death. The age of humanity's protection had begun. They ruled not through conquest, but through the simple promise that those who healed would never be defenseless again. Touch Earth's healers, and face Earth's reapers. The galaxy had learned its lesson well. In the medical bay below, alien children played while they recovered from various illnesses. Human doctors moved among them, checking treatments and offering comfort. It was a peaceful scene full of hope and healing. But through the viewports, the shapes of human warships could be seen against the stars, silent guardians making sure that peace would be protected. The healers worked, and the angels of death watched over them, forever.